Hello there, you're still on the AM show. It's now time to do our review, but this time round, not in the political sense. I've got Hannah Owusu-Kranting. She's Associate Executive Director of WACAM, and they are into, mining, observing basically what happens at the grassroots level. And we know that this year, government has been heavy, very heavy on Galamsey, especially taking the fight against it to a different level. We have the media joining, some civil society organizations joining. We're hearing good news from the anti-Galamsey task force in Operation Vanguard, but really, how would Madame Owusu-Kranting, who works with WACAM, review, or what would be her assessment of government's work so far? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. The last month of the year, yes. And like I said, if you're looking at the highlights of this year, definitely anti-Galamsey and the fight against it will pop up. It's just in our faces. Yeah. But what would your assessment be? How well have we done in this particular fight?
Thank you again, and good morning to your listeners. I think efforts put in by government and the media and some civil society organizations need to be commended, because there had been some awareness created that yes, mining is not all that rosy, and so people are sitting up, and many communities are questioning why mining should even happen in their backyard. Because the communities that are affected by mining, if I talk about mining, I'm not only limiting the discussion
to small
scale or illegal, whatever, but I'm talking about surface mining in general. Has been a thorn in the flesh of many communities. I'm talking about more than 70,000 landlords who lost their lands because of mining. And it wasn't just 1 acre, huge tracts of lands were lost. And so that had its social, economic implications and even cultural implications. I'm talking about the activity that polluted water bodies extensively all over the country. I'm talking about the degraded environment, and then the loss of biodiversity, and then even the topography of the earth crust changing just to pave the way for surface mining. And so if people become aware that yes, we need to do something about the menace that surface mining has presented, then it's welcome news. And yes, you were talking about whether it's reduced. Yes, to some extent, yes, but it has not been eradicated. And there are reasons why it may continue to be like that. Or
what are those reasons?
Yes, because as I said, the agenda set for eradicating the illegalities in mining was quite parochial in nature. Because if you look at surface mining over the years, before Galamsey illegal operations or the small-scale mining became a very huge problem, communities complained about a lot of issues which I've enumerated. And to think of it, even the human, political, civil rights violations, where people were shot and killed, some were maimed, guard dogs were released on citizens because they were on their lands, and then somebody comes in. And so mining hasn't been a very welcome activity in communities that are affected. Okay. Those whose lives were affected. And so if you limit the struggle to just the illegal, in quotes, and then the small-scale miners.
But government wants us to believe it's a phase. It's one step at a time. But so let's just talk about how society in general has reacted to this. Is it the kind of response that you want? And do you see this this measure the government put in place, the task force, as one that we can sustain?
Well, I wouldn't ever believe that putting up a task force would help to curb the illegality. It's quite temporary in nature, and it should go with a lot of interventions. For instance, many people were drifted into the activity because either they've lost their livelihoods or their jobs, or because there's no job creation in the country, because education was so expensive that a lot of the youths were not placed in schools. And then also the fact that women, for instance, had nothing to do. They've lost the forest, and women depended on the forest for their livelihood. So all these things pulled people into the illegal activities. And so if you use the force to at least stop it temporarily, it means that you are finding permanent solutions to the problems that exist in the communities. And if you want something to do with cleaning water, the water is polluted and is continuously being polluted. So yes, galamsey operations may stop or be minimized, but then surface mining in itself is polluting water bodies, be it small, large, corporate entity or what. So these are issues that need to be addressed, and not to be setting bad examples, giving bad indications that yes, it was only the small-scale activities that had to be curtailed.
And maybe that's why the small-scale miners were quite bitter about all of this, and they've actually been appealing to government, claiming that some of them are really licensed and they have the right to do what they have to do. But quite recently we had some news. The Eastern Regional Minister, for example, was accusing the task force of collecting bribes and allowing other people to mine deep in the forest, and we've had a lot of this coming up recently. Again, I'll come to you because you are on the ground, you speak to these communities, you deal with them. Has any such information come to your outfit?
Yes, I hear some of the news around corruption in mining, and I must say that it did not begin last year or this year. It's been something that has happened over the years, because if you go to even the corporate mining institutions, they have some security presence. The military, the police, and the community people have all sorts of complaints about their activities and all that. I'm not very quick to comment on corruption because I normally talk about things that I have experienced.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I asked if such information has come to your outfit.
Yes, it has come to my outfit that people are abusing their positions of trust. And when they go out in the past and currently, at times they chase the galamsey operators and only to pick their concentrates and then process, and then what happens nobody knows. So these stories crop up from time to time. Yeah.
So looking forward, government hopes to have an MMIP, and I mean to broaden the fight, maybe like you just said, to move it from the task force level to a multi-sectoral approach. But where you sit, with the number of years you've worked on this, let's fill in the gaps here. Are we heading in the right way? From a task force, we bring in the other sectors, and then gradually we put the issue of galamsey, aside forever.
Well, definitely there was the initiative muted by government, and it will work very well if the broader society make input into whatever documents government has prepared. If you review the document which I've done, you see that it has some gaps, and some of the provisions were not really thoroughly thought through. And so if you have that situation and you keep the document as a ministerial document and not subject it to scrutiny, critical scrutiny, yes, you make some strides and then invest in the process, but then at the end of the day you are not going to achieve the results.
Do you mind sharing what those gaps are quickly?
Well, those gaps for instance, it talks about employment, alternative livelihood creation. It talks about plantation. It talks about working with in vocational skills and what have you. Then the document mentions one institution. So it's as if that was preconceived even before the document became public documents. Okay. And we have other institutions that could equally invest in the process. At times not even for financial gains, but then equipping people to have the skills that they need.
So you want a broader
consultation, because we're talking about a resource that is not owned by government. Okay. It's owned by every citizen. And so if you want to mine and mine responsibly, it is the duty of government to ensures that citizens participate actively in the processes.
Okay.
Now, the other question that I find a bit disturbing is that what land are they going to use? Because mining, there's big scale mining, there's small scale mining located on family lands, people's lands. And in Ghana, government is not the owner of the land. And so if there is the move to even reclaim the land, how
are they going to go about it?
And then the ownership question and who would have what and things like that. Again, they are talking about acquiring lands for other investments. I did not see the free, prior and informed consent, because the lands already in Ghana are either cultivated or are vested in families. So if you're going to take my land for any economic purposes, I have a right to determine whether that investment would be in my interest, it's not going to affect me socially, economically, and things like that. And these details were not included.
Well, interesting points you raised there. But while government is trying to deal with the menace, you're also going about doing your business, and you're doing something tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow, yes, we are talking to the media, especially those who were involved in the Galamsey struggle, and we want you to also share your experiences, because we don't want Wakam always speaking about mining. Other civil society groups have been involved in it, and so we need to share our experiences, and collectively we come out with some indications that would give to the government for inclusion in the MMIPs and all the other interventions that are happening.
All right, so we look forward to that. We definitely will share our experiences, because I know one of my colleagues, Latif Idris, and others have actually been on the ground to assess the work of the Anti-Galamsey Task Force, brought reports on how water bodies were beginning to, return to the normal state after some of the activities were halted. Really, I appreciate your time here this morning, Madam Hannah Owusu-Kranting. She's Associate Executive Director of WACAM, and we've been talking about Anti-Galamsey, reviewing government's initiative in the fight against Galamsey. We'll be back with more. When I come back, I'll be talking about mental health. Yes, mental health. Is this something we pay a lot of attention to? Do we just talk about it and after that, just push it away, push it to the side and go about our normal businesses? You wouldn't want to miss it. I won't tell you who my guest is. Just stay and wait till you see her. We'll be back in a minute.